Hello and welcome to my channel, I Win to Lose Gaming. In today's video, we're going to have a DPS showdown between 3 of the top 4-star Catalyst DPS characters, Heizou, Yanfei, and Ningguang. It's been a while since we've had such a thematically similar DPS showdown. They're all 4-star characters, they're all DPS characters, and they all use catalysts as well. Interestingly, from a DPS build perspective, all 3 of them also don't have an ideal 4-piece artifact set, and all 3 of them don't even have an ideal weapon. So this leads us to an interestingly unoptimized DPS showdown in comparison to many of the 5-star character focused DPS showdowns, which generally have a clear best in slot weapon and or artifact set. So to keep things comparatively simple, I'm going to use the same weapon across all 3 of them, the Regisvine. Every catalyst has major issues on these characters, ranging from needing to be on field for 16 seconds, to another catalyst that gives a randomized buff with a super long cooldown. As such, to respect my time, the Regisvine is the most reliable and consistent option. And one more thing, the times on the screen are in frames, which is 1/60th of a second, while the times I say and in my charts are in decimals. This is for recording accuracy purposes. Let's take a look at each of their individual builds now. Heizou is using the Regisvine and the 2-piece gladiators plus 2-piece human hours. He is at Constellation 6 and his talents are at 9, 12, and 12. Yanfei is also using the Regisvine, and for her artifacts, she is using the 4-piece Wanderer's Troop to boost her charge attack damage. She is at Constellation 6 and her talents are at 9, 12, and 12. Lastly, but not necessarily the least, we have Ningguang, who is also using the Regisvine in a very similar 2-piece gladiators and 2-piece human hours to Heizou. She is unsurprisingly also at Constellation 6, and her talents are at 9, 12, and 12. Throughout the overworld portion of this video, I use 20% crit rate food on all 3 of them to improve consistency and to close the gap in their damage potentials. I also use a couple of crit fishing builds for Heizou and Yanfei at one point in this video, which I will indicate via the text below. Anyway, let's move on to the most important part of this video, the disclaimers. All the runs in this video can be improved. I simply do each of these runs a few times and pick the best time for each of the situation. I'm not here to grind infinitely, just save a few frames to a few seconds. Each of these runs are done to the best of my abilities and problem solving within a reasonable amount of time. This is simply an anecdotal comparison between these characters at my levels of investment. Because my characters are all at Constellation 6 refinement 5, this is not an accurate reflection of their power levels at lower constellations and investments. Just because character A is better than character B in a specific scenario does not mean the character A is better than character B. Please take everything with a giant grain of salt. So with these snooze-inducing builds and disclaimers out of the way, let's hop right into our first showcase, where we mercilessly murder our best friend and favorite volunteer, the Cryo Regisvine. The only precasting allowed here was having 3 stacks on the Regisvine for all 3 of them. Well, with a general all-rounder build like this for Heizou, this forced him to rely on his basic attacks to actually finish off our Regisvine friend. It's worth noting that I did use Bennett's 2-gauge Pyro to Heizou's advantage, as that allowed him to triple swirl very quickly to get his serious punch to max the clench and stacks. Heizou completed this in a solid 7.57 seconds. Now if I were to use a crit fish build with Pyro Resonance and the Widsid, now Heizou is able to take out the Regisvine in just 3.45 seconds. As we can see, there are massive ways to improve these times with some patience, but to keep this Regisvine showcase fair, they're all using non-crit fishing balanced builds. Next we have Yanfei, who is a Pyro character that is very reliant on reaction damage. However, her raw Pyro damage is very reasonable and she managed to easily take out the Regisvine before it could retaliate. However, despite having the very strong Pyro Resonance to help her, she was still slower than both Heizou and Ningguang here with her time of 8.82 seconds. But don't worry Yanfei fans, she'll have her moments when reactions are considered later. Last and the boss of them all, unless you count Heizou's crit fishing Widsit build, Ningguang dominated this with her balance build and by using Geo Resonance. Geo Resonance is the strongest resonance, and by simply picking up a Crystallize, Ningguang was able to demolish our poor plant friend in 4.65 seconds. A very impressive showcase for our favorite actual Geo CEO. Our next friendly volunteer is the much friendlier and much sturdier Primogeovishap. In a much longer and sustained fight, the percentage difference is much smaller in comparison to the Regisvine fight. Now I'm not sure how I feel about using Kokomi's jellyfish to apply Hydro to help Heizou swirl in this fight. This would be similar to if I used Kokomi to help Yanfei vape a few times in this fight. Let me know how you feel about the free swirls so I can make better decisions in the future. Anyway, Heizou did just fine in this fight and was able to take out our much sturdier volunteer, Regisvine friend, in 29.4 seconds. For Yanfei, I wanted to emphasize that the Wanderer's Troop is not her best artifact set for raw pyro damage, nor is the Kaguu's Verity as the weapon option. Either way, Yanfei is an extremely energy-hungry character, especially if she needs to do more than a single burst cycle to take out her enemy. As such, I opened up with a ton of pyro particles from Amber's Baron Bunnies. Unlike Ningguang or Heizou though, Yanfei's damage is much steadier as she stamps her opponents repeatedly into submission. Yanfei was the slowest in this specific fight at 35.3 seconds. Ningguang surprised me here. As we all know, the Primogeovishap is quite resistant towards geo damage, sporting 50% geo resistances. However, thanks to both Zhongli's shield and geo resonance, this brings his resistance down to a much more reasonable 10% geo resistance. While Ningguang is known for her single target nuking damage, and this certainly demonstrated that. Despite the disadvantage of fighting our geo resistant volunteer, she managed to win this one with an impressive 25.2 second clear time. The last solo damage showcase overworld fight is the Muppet Pastor, the Kaguu Menki. The Kaguu Menki is my go-to multi-phase fight nowadays. Unsurprisingly, Heizou was able to extremely quickly burst down the first phase of the Muppet Pastor with his one punch and one kick. Then was the simple task of building 4 more stacks a couple of times to punch in the Kaguu Menki's mask to finish it off in a great 23.9 seconds. Unfortunately, this fight is a really bad one for Yanfei. Yanfei is heavily reliant on her teammates funneling her tons of pyro particles in this case, and unlike Heizou and Ningguang, without reaction she has no way to instantly burst down the first phase of the Kaguu Menki. There is certainly a lot of room to improve here, but this does serve as a rough idea of what to expect in this fight. Then as the fight drew longer and longer, Yanfei runs out of stamina, which is crucial for her DPS output, as she relies on her charge attacks. In the end, Yanfei completed another reactionless fight in 37.1 seconds. Considering Ningguang was the fastest against a geo-resistant boss like the Primogeovishap, I think this result isn't very surprising. Ningguang's first burst and charge attack managed to effortlessly take out the Kaguu Menki's first Muppet form. Then Ningguang's short burst cooldown and low energy cost made it effortless for her to get it back up again and do a huge portion of the Muppet Pastor's second Kaguu Menki. Sadly, our Muppet Menki friend wasn't able to even run across the entire screen and was pastored puppeted in just 19.4 seconds. Our last overworld showcase to take into account is a full team, and it will be against the world's most annoying giant mechanical snake thing, the Rune Serpent. Because Heizou only needs to crit the Rune Serpent literally twice, I went with the crit fish build for this. After a very meaty 294,964 damage punch to the gears, our Rune Serpent found itself in ruins. Finally, it's Yanfei's time to shine and she's allowed to actually use reactions finally. Yanfei is also running a crit fish build because, just like Heizou, she only needs to crit twice. Thanks to Ayaka's infinite cryo works, Yanfei was able to effortlessly melt her burst and elemental skill to melt our poor Rune Serpent friend into scrap metal. Well, Ningguang unfortunately cannot rely on a crit fishing build here, so she's still using the same build from before. With 100,000 damage screens and 15 to 33,000 damage pebbles, it's no surprise that the world's most annoying mechanical snake stood no chance. Overall, these three contestants were so remarkably close in this contest that some minor differences in execution would make all the difference. As such, I personally consider this one a three-way tie. And last but not the least, or arguably the least, we have Abyss 12. Unfortunately, due to the nature of this Abyss 12, you basically need Kazuha, and since all three of them love Bennett too, we have Bennett as well. And since there's a bunch of cryo monsters, well, the most logical fourth slot here is Xiangling. Let's see how these three characters do as the fourth flex slot. Honestly, the times are so close between the three of them that it's yet again hard to say who wins in this full team scenario. Admittingly, Bennett, Kazuha, and Xiangling did almost all the heavy lifting, and just some minor execution differences can account for the difference in these times. Regardless, it's clear that all three of them are able to contribute a little bit to each of these fights. As we can see in 12-2-1, Heizou, Yanfei, and Ningguang didn't actually need to do anything, but I decided to have them do a little bit of stuff just for the funsies. All three of these runs can all be improved, and really any of these characters can take the W. However, I do think this slightly favors Yanfei, as she might be able to burst down the cryo cube a little bit faster. However, Heizou has the advantage in 12-1-1 to be able to burst down the last wave a little bit faster. Overall, I find this top half of Abyss 12 to be a poor indicator for this DPS showdown between such different elements. So there you go, a DPS showdown between our favorite 4-star main DPS Catalyst characters. Overall, I think all three of these characters are very viable and quite strong. Heizou having some nice damage per thumbnails and Ningguang having some great single target burst damage. Yanfei did feel noticeably weaker without reactions, but once Melt was in play, Yanfei easily caught up and held her own. Honestly, miHoYo has done a pretty decent job with balancing these specific 4-star Catalyst DPS characters, as Ningguang was released day 1, albeit buffed when Geo was buffed, and Yanfei was released a long time ago as well. Let me know what you think about today's DPS Showdown and if you think any character actually won this one. Also, I regularly make Genshin Impact videos ranging from Caesar showcases, DPS showdowns, guide videos, and more. So be sure to smash the subscribe button as it's the best and easiest way for you to support my work. Also, don't forget to like the video and leave a comment for the YouTube algorithm. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. This is I Win to Lose, signing out.